Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is currently April 7th, 2010, and as usual, I'm day 9 because I am never not here on time, and it is day 9 daily number 97. That's so close to 100 that all of you should tune into, because number 100 is when I'm going to be just saying my life in StarCraft, what it was like growing up in a family that played StarCraft, namely my brother. Just pretty much hanging out with him, the crazy stories we have growing up, what's like interacting with the internet as a young boy, getting your mom into it, that sort of thing. So definitely tune into that. I'm going to make a huge post on Team Liquid about that one. I'm particularly excited today because I've never had this many viewers when starting a live presentation. So I'm very glad I styled my hair today and made sure that my fashion sense was at its peak. We got 1,500 viewers starting live, so thanks a bunch. So just to do some other general bookkeeping, there is a show match tomorrow morning that I'm doing between White Rot and Spell. So famous StarCraft player versus famous Warcraft 3 players. That's going to be awesome. That's going to happen at 10 a.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. CET. So I know a lot of you Europeans are tuning in right now. So hey, check that out. Also doing the Hello Goodbye tournament cast with with Diggity this weekend. And okay, so the craziest thing happened. I told people I'm trying to get new equipment to try to like spruce the cast up. I actually recently ordered an HD camera, high definition. And people said, hey, is there a place that we can donate to try to help you like speed that up? And I posted that info and people actually donated. So this blows my mind that people are this nice on the internet. If you want to donate, you can. My PayPal is SPLOTT at hmc.edu. So that's splot at hmc.edu. That's not my main email address, so if you email, I probably won't read it. That's just my PayPal account. If you want to do that, I seriously will not complain. At the rate donations are coming in, man, I can have like an HD toothbrush by next week, so, you know, be brushing my teeth in 1080p. But today, we're going to have the sickest game I think I've seen yet in StarCraft 2, and I haven't even finished it. It's, XiaoT. It's XiaoT. I'm going to pronounce it XiaoT because I'm white, against Loner. So, in this game, I actually don't get to see which player is who because they're both under Smurf names. So I'm probably going to be referring to them as Terran and Protoss. I'm pretty sure that... Oh, actually, I believe I can check this right now using cunning use of the internet. But yeah, XiaoT is actually the Protoss. Who'd have thought? Anyways, we're going to bounce right into this game. I didn't actually finish it because I had to go to this stupid grad school thing. Gross. So yes, here we are, examining StarCraft, not in 1080p yet. But that, of course, is the end goal. So we do have, this is Loner spawning as our friendly Protoss pieces down here. Or, not XiaoT, excuse me. XiaoT is the Protoss. XiaoT, this is him. He's a Protoss, he's spawning right here. And up here at the top left is Edison, a.k.a. Loner, who's the Terran player. So, this map I love. I dislike maps like Lost Temple for the most part because they're so typical. This just has some really crazy stuff. I think the weirdest thing to note is going over here to the Terran Natural Expansion. This thing is so hard to defend. Jesus, it's hard to defend because even though you do have this small choke here, it's pretty big. So it's difficult to defend attacks, you know, that swing in along this side to the natural. There's also this huge path up to the biggest ramp, I think, in the game for your choke. So it's really hard to defend your natural expansion. Just glancing at it, you just go, ugh, I don't really like that. But peculiarly, this rush distance is really far, just sort of following along here. We have to go all the way down, and then we have to go all the way to the Zelnaga Watchtower, and you can watch on the minimap just to sort of see how far this is. And, a lot of people, have played this, and they say, yeah, it's far, no big deal. But they don't change their builds that much, and you can get away with some crazy stuff. So a lot of one gate expands as Protoss against Terran. A lot of one racks no gas expands. What Jinro and I affectionately call the Morrow build. Just building a command center right off the bat right now. It looks like Terran's thinking about it, but obviously he's not going to do it because he has 50 minerals and he knows that 400 is oftentimes bigger than 50. So what I already love about this player, about Edison, aka Loner, is how much he's scouting around for shenanigans, or as Idra likes to call it, unfair bullshit. He's checking up here to see if there's any sort of proxy stuff up here. Obviously this is a prime spot for warp gates to go in for any sort of proxy stuff. But I really like the way it ends up just feeling on this map, because on this map specifically, this is gonna sound like it's not a big deal, but it really is. You don't share a cliff with any area you don't control. So think about Lost Temple. You have this huge main, which means that Reapers can pop in. You know, you can get Stalkers to blink up there. A Protoss player can shuttle stuff up there very, very easily. But that's not the case on Scrap Station. If we just go to the map right here while the game's paused, we see that, you know, here's the cliff. There's no border here with scary ground. Yeah, there's some ground here, but you obviously get control of that the instant you march all the way down to here. So I really love that. So the fact that you're able to actually... I just clicked my camera button. Sorry, let's just go back to the screen. I know it was unbelievably entertaining to look at me because, once again, my passion is at peak value today. But anyways, coming back to the main screen, which is actually the reason people are tuning in. But it ends up being okay that you make these little sacrifices, these long roundabout things, because the money you lose scouting for all those crazy gimmicks, you make up for by the fact that you don't share any scary ground border around your main. So Terran's already playing a little bit unorthodox. Look at this, 2 barracks before gas. This is a more aggressive build. I actually don't think it's very well suited for this map. We're going to see how the Terran player ends up transitioning out of it. I say it's well suited because 2 barracks, aggression. Why are you being aggressive when there's this huge long distance that Protoss can abuse quite a bit? So Protoss is doing everything as standard as can be. Most players love getting the second gas while the cybernetics core is building. And if you're going for big warp gate stuff, I think it's essential to get that gas early on so you can get a ton of sentries, because those are what really put the hurt on. But if you're going to be going for a robotics facility like this, I love delaying that gas. I think that is actually key to delay that gas. Because notice, right about the time you get 125 minerals, you have 50 gas. Actually, notice that this is exact. This Zealot costs 100. Picture $100 back in the bank. You have 125.50, so you could make a Stalker. Once again, making Stalkers is a very big deal for Terran early on. Or excuse me, a very big deal for the Protoss early on, because the Protoss is going, oh Jesus, I really need to get a Stalker out to protect against Reapers. But less so on this map. So Terran doing bunker stuff, I think this is very clearly bad. I don't think that this is going to go well at all. Oh yeah, look, and it's dead. And the first Marine just got here, and a probe's been wailing on him, you know, the whole trip. So valiant little probe, you've won a Medal of Honor. And meanwhile, the Zealot gets to repel it relatively easily. I mean, this is kind of cool, this aggressive stuff with Marines. This would be fantastic on Steps of War. I'd love this on Steps of War. Maybe Lost Temple, I'd love it on Lost Temple. But here, less than ideal. I don't like it as much. He is getting an Immortal, getting Zealots. Excellent transition. Again, we delayed this second gas so much. We want to make sure we can have enough gas for the Immortals, so we get some Zealots. No big deal. More Zealots than probably he'd ordinarily get, but of course, this is not ordinary. So everything that the Protoss is doing, I like. So we see Terran going ahead and expanding. He just went for some 2 racks, nutty aggression stuff, and then he went ahead and expanded. Again, on Steps of War, I would love that. I think that would be great on Steps of War. On this map, less so. So here we have him chrono boosting an Observer, very standard. Moving out. Notice how all these Marines early on negate Immortals. Completely shut down the advantage of getting these Immortals early on, which I think is just awesome. Also, Marines do more damage than Marauders. I know that they only do 6 damage, but because 1 Marauder costs 100 and 2 Marines cost 100, this is actually 12 damage per shot. So even without the damage boost, the Marines, even without Marauder's damage boost, Marines are still doing crazy amounts of damage. So it's really, Marines are like high damage, not so much health. Marauders are, I can micro really well and kill sentries really well, but not too much damage. Excuse me, kill stalkers really well, but not so much damage. So people are loving these Marine openings. I know I personally have skewed more towards that ever since I had Protosses do some crazy warp gate openings. But this I actually like, getting the Immortal early on, first of all, because Immortals are just good units against Marauders and that sort of thing. They obviously do 50 damage against them, which, you know, that's good. But especially we can bust down these rocks and have a nice timing push. And again, once these rocks are down, crazy hard to defend Expo. And Terran is doing the expected thing, getting tech labs, producing a bunch of Marauders. Very, very standard transition. Terran opening up anything into 3 barracks is, I would consider standard. 3 barracks with tech lab to go Marauders. And we have the warp gate coming up. This actually looks a little bit more Protoss versus Zergish. This is the mix that many Protoss players have been known to love and employ every single game that they play against Zerg. Very strong composition. Kind of cool to see it used here. I do like Zealot Immortal combinations a lot against these Marine Marauder armies, because the Marauders can't really dash up nearly as easily, and the Zealots are just, you know, they do a ton of damage. So much damage, 16 per hit. It's enormous. So at this point, it looks like Terran's going to be in a little bit of a rough spot. Even if these Zealots pull back, the Immortals are obviously knocking that down real fast. So let's go ahead and turn on the health bars. Now this is actually going really bad for the who is this guy? The Protoss. How did I lose that word? I've like grown up playing StarCraft. That should be in my blood. I should like wake up from nightmares and just be like, oh, he's building cannons under my bed. You know, I should know what Protoss is by now, and I promise you that slip will never happen again. So anyways, coming right back here. This is not going well for our Protoss hero, XiaoT, right? If we just rewind a little bit, I dislike that these Zealots are getting all uppity and trying to kill these Marines, right? Here they are, wailing on stuff. Because you want the Zealots going after the Marines and the stuff in the front line, so these Stalkers, excuse me, so these Immortals can rush up and kill off these Marauders. These Zealots are not so well served against the Marauders, obviously because the Marauders have an armor, so that drops the 16 damage down to 14, and Immortals rape Marauders, so you want the Immortals fighting the Marauders and the Zealots fighting the Marines. There we go. That's the way we want the army to look, with the Zealots tearing the Marines down, so it's just Immortals and Zealots against Marauders. So this is great. So already this game is cool. I'm going to do a lot less pausing because, as you note, this game is 52 minutes and 39 seconds. It's a very, very long game, so I don't want to have you here all night. So anyways, just moving right along. So this, I think, the timing of this push is good, but I would much prefer to go over and check up on this Expo. Either way, he's doing some nice pushing action up here. I can't tell if this barracks placement is helping or hurting. It's times like these, battles like these, where you start to really rethink your seemingly trivial placement early on. You know, you build the barracks early on because, hey, I just want to be able to have barracks nearby my ramp. But here you kind of go, ooh, is stuff getting caught? So I think, you know, Protoss is doing the right thing, trying to dash around. Now, what is Protoss' transition plan? These attacks are good, but anytime your opponent has an Expo, and you're trying to bust in and do damage to his little Marauder troops, you want to make absolutely certain that you have some follow-through that isn't, I hope he dies. Yeah, these attacks are great, but this probe, I think this expansion is pretty late. I think that this expansion could have come up quite a bit earlier, and he's even getting distracted from it. So let's just be aware of that mini-map down there, aware that there is some stuff going on, and of course, you know, bringing the SCVs in the battle, because yeah, that health got dropped to 45, but they still really put the hurt on. And he's retreating, because SCVs actually are terrifying to fight against. So already this game is cool. So I'm going to speed it up, so we watch them just sort of skedaddle around like sort of freaky cockroaches. Still no expansion up for Protoss. Ah, that's so bad. Yeah, he's getting a robotics bay. That's good. But notice how way above 400 he is right now. It looks like he just started researching this thermal lance, and looks like okay, now he has the Nexus down. That Nexus is so late. So insanely, incredibly late. Somehow a Zealot was over here, just sort of doing its thing. No big deal. He gets punished for that decision. I just want to briefly state, now that we have 2,000 viewers in here, God, I hope it breaks 2,000. That would be a first ever for the Day 9 Daily. That all the changes that were made to StarCraft 2, for instance, this, you know, concussion shell, or excuse me, concussive shell being changed to an upgrade, that will all be discussed in the TeamLiquid.net beta podcast. So yeah. So, you know, I do that as well, so definitely tune into that. I do it with Jinro nowadays. But yeah, getting the Colossus, this is all well and fine and good. This composition by Protoss is super insanely strong. Zealots, Immortals, and Colossi. That's unbelievably potent to pure ground armies. But Protoss needs to be super careful to be scouting this base as aggressively as possible. Are there any factories anywhere? Because if there is even a hint of a factory, these warp gates need to be making as many sentries and stalkers as possible ASAP, because the Colossi will fall immediately to Vikings, and you'll have a huge army that dies real quickly to a concentrated Marine Marauder force. But either way, things are getting, what I would say, to one of the standard-looking mid-games. The Terran with all his barracks with a tech lab. The Protoss getting his expansion later than the Terran. But having these Immortals and these Colossi really getting ready to put the hurt on. And oh my god, we're at 1999 viewers. Oh my god, I just want just one more viewer. Just one time. Oh, pausing the replay, ladies and gentlemen. We have 2,000 viewers in the stream. That's the first time I've ever had 2,000 people here for a Day 9 Daily. Doing a thug snap to celebrate. And because I'm nice, I'll do my Overlord impersonation. Seriously, I do a really good Overlord. Anyways, coming right back to the game because I'm ultra excited and because I know you guys like those nostalgic StarCraft 1 references. We miss the fact that Stalkers are not called Dragoons. I still want to call them Dragoons and occasionally slip up as such. You know, no big deal. Anyways, things are looking standard right now. I do think that Protoss wants to, Terran wants to be getting factories. He's really dumping heavy into the ground. But Terrans love these huge ground armies with just Marauders, which once again got a little bit nerfed by having that concussive shell be made to a research that you have to get at the tech lab. But still, you know, pretty normal stuff. We have a spotter pylon here. Building these spotter pylons, I think these are good. Oh, geez, it looks like a huge army's coming in right now. One thing, again, these Colossi are pretty good. They die a little fast to Marauders, but we're going to see beautiful use of force fields. Because with the range upgrade, these have range 9. That is so far. Marauders only have a range of 6. Therefore, in these sorts of battles, you can throw down a big line of force fields, and your Colossi can demolish these Marauders without anything being able to touch the Colossi. So as we can see, you know, something like that. There was not a force field wall, but there was a unit wall. Look at this, nothing but Colossi being made, still only on the 3 warp gates. Ideally would like to see more. Unit mix is, you know, a little behind on XiaoT, but once again, we're not watching this just for the commentary purpose and for the analysis purpose. We're watching because this game is awesome. So we have a stim going down. See ya, Nexus. And by the way, that was perfect timing by Loner to just like he turned around with the last shell, did the critical amount of damage to bring it down. What a superhero. And once again, Spotter Pylon's doing a good job. We have another observer just checking out what's up. But I want to note how dangerous this Protoss's camera view is, how much it suggests vulnerability for Protoss. Because notice he has no knowledge of anything that's up here in the Terran base. Vikings could be en route, and this army, it's like just Colossi. Look at this. It's 5 Colossi, and then 6 sentries and 2 zealots and an immortal. It's like Colossus plus units to help the Colossus. That's it. That's like the only thing that's there. So, you know, very, very scary. I mean, if you can spot your opponent and you know for a fact that he is not making any factory anywhere, then definitely, yeah, you can go Colossus sentries till you're blue in the face. But how funny, because he actually is blue. I'm actually so entertained by that. That's bejugular, which is another one of those words that I made up. It means totally rad. It's spelled B-J-U-E-J-E-U-L-E-R. That's the proper spelling of that word. And I'm trying to use it more in my cast, just have more people say it to be neat. So anyways, here comes the big Colossus push. Everything's looked fairly static from now. Terran with his huge ground army. No transitioning, just more ground. Look, oh, there's the starport. Notice how fast that was. Just 2 seconds ago, I was saying, man, Protoss needs to be aware of this vulnerability. And suddenly a starport is just around the corner. But anyways, backing up, this fairly, I don't know, homogenous unit composition of all Marauders all the time, although it's good, it allows for this sort of stuff, like expanding aggressively. It allows for killing off Nexuses aggressively, but we end up making ourselves very vulnerable to any sort of overly skewed unit composition by Protoss. And we're going to see Protoss really put the hurt on here and have the beginnings of a zany game. This is one thing that also bothers me about Protoss's play. Notice how passive Protoss has been for a very long time. One could say, well, Terran's been passive too. No. Terran got an advantage and then he expanded. Expanding is a very, very aggressive move. And you should all be very, very aware of that. I'm having a little bit of issues with the frame rate, but I'm just going to go ahead and leave it as is. It should pick up over time. So my sincerest apologies if it's a little blocky. I can see it. Can't do nothing about it because, unfortunately, I do not own livestream.com as much as I would like to. Look at this beautiful wall. Nothing can get to those Colossi. And they'll try to juke forward and back. Nothing. And the Colossi can march right on over those force fields. Sentry Colossus works beautifully. And there's a medevac going, whoops, I'm so embarrassed not to be a Viking right now. My goodness. So he's going to get zapped a little bit by these sentries. And it looks like Protoss is about to have a successful counter push. Is Terran making Vikings? No, he's getting medevacs. That's a clear blunder, I think. And the huge range on the Colossus means you can hit the planetary fortress, and it cannot hit back. And there is also a hilarious bug where the planetary fortress, although it does 40 damage per shot, in Splash, it does 60 damage per shot. So that's kind of funny. If you got hit, you're okay. But the guy next to you, he's not so okay. But so here is one of the cool factors about this map. Again, let's put analysis aside and say, oh my god, he's able to counterattack really easily. Wait a minute, Protoss really doesn't have a mining expansion. Uh-oh, that's neat. And then look at this, Terran is just like, and he's just going to run away. And there's going to be no repercussions. Well, you know, he might get trapped behind some walls. Okay, so there were repercussions, all right? He's unhappy about that. I will not disagree with that assessment. But overall, Terran is still in the plus, I would say. He needs to start getting Vikings. Why is he not getting Vikings? Vikings would completely nullify this. But sometimes, bad decisions result in awesome games. Notice that there's another 32 minutes on this, so I'm pretty excited about that. I love the fact we have more ghosts in this mix. Many players who do this 5 barracks junk just skip getting these refineries because they say, well, who needs gas when you can spam D? And that's true, you can just go mass Marauder, and that works reasonably effectively. But good players will always add more gas to their armies and figure out ways to use it, such as with upgrades or just getting ghosts. And yeah, once again, Mondo push, just a little trick. And remember, if you do it once, it's a trick. If you do it more than once, it's a technique, right? So here's a great technique that all of you should employ, which is whenever you see a repairing structure, such as with planetary fortresses, or very early in Protoss vs. Terran, when you have a bunch of SCVs repairing a bunker, force field all the area around the planetary fortress, pops those SCVs right off it. And even if it doesn't, you have removed a ton of space for the repair. So fewer SCVs can repair it. I have lost many a time when I'm trying to do some practice stuff in games. So we have, looks like XiaoT is just hitting enter and letting him know that he wants to 1A attack into his base. We also have the Terran going, hey, maybe if I kill off every Nexus he's ever built, I can somehow win. So by the way, notice how unbelievably fast these Marauders annihilated that Colossus. That goes to show how useful those force fields are, or just at the very least having a handful of Zealots and Immortals in that mixture. And at this point, I would give the win very clearly to the Protoss player. Just looking at the food count, Protoss at 110, some 3-digit number in the red. And Terran's at 63, yuck. Sure, Terran's going to float over here. I mean, Protoss just has to be careful not to lose his last Nexus and all his probes. I have made this mistake many a time. And now, look at this. This game is awesome. Who doesn't have a main? Both of them. Right? Look at this. Oh, maybe I'll just float over here. Hey, Vikings. Where have you been all this time? Look, they're trying to hide behind the barracks, trying to dodge their duties. Assholes. Seriously, why were these Vikings not in the battle earlier on? That blows my mind. And okay, well, we're going to see. And this is about as far as I got in this game before I was, like, doing a daily on it. At this point, I was just like, why are these Vikings? Where have they been? We're actually going to see them do a ton of damage. Sorry, I keep accidentally scrolling in because I'm awful. But then, you know, Protoss doing cleanup. This is the smart thing that Protoss did. He did tons of damage, and then he's going to pull back and play Housekeeper. He's going to clear out his entire base, and he's just going to focus on defending this expansion. I think that is super key. A lot of players get in these crazy situations where they end up base trading and doing some other crazy, you know, stuff. They start trying to, like, spread out to find anything they can kill. But you just need to pull back and defend when you think you're at a huge advantage. For instance, Protoss thinks that he has a base and that Terran doesn't, alright? Just going to the Protoss cam, on Protoss's current set of knowledge, there's no expansion here, there's no expansion in the main. This expansion he's taking, I mean, look at the minimap from Protoss's point of view. Nothing with any Terran anywhere, right? No base is mining. So what the hell is every single unit that he owns doing starting to go up this way? Just pull back and defend. I mean, yeah, now he's pulling back because this stuff's dropping and putting the hurt on this thing. But, you know, all these guys should have been way back here super earlier on. I mean, even the house cleaning, he could have just taken all these sentries and gone up there and left all his Colossi here to deal with any drop. Obviously, that would have been a little bit bad because, you know, a Viking would have been able to take out the Colossi. But, you know, take all the Zealots up here or something like that. And look, it cost him a Nexus. This game is way closer than it should be. And here's a Viking, yet still deciding that shooting the Colossus is a bad idea. And if we just hold this Alt key, there are two that are super duper 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 red. And of course, you know, the SCVs putting a little hurt on. Look at them. Doing disco moves, which apparently also do damage to Nexuses. Noxen? I don't know how plural is. Anyways, yeah, so now we're starting to see Protoss buckle down, play a little smarter, splitting up his units. Way too many Colossi going up north. Jesus, look, his whole army's going up north. What is he using? What's this for? To kill the refinery? To kill the Ghost Academy and these things? Yeah, look, just leave the Immortal there. Kill off depots and leave the rest of the army behind. Once again, bad decisions make for sweet games. Terran doing the smart thing. Good crisis management, floating anywhere he can to get any resources he can. If this gets killed, still a good decision to have tried to do it. Because one of those fundamental rules is that when you're behind and your opponent has like a clear, solid lead, like, you know, more money, has a bigger army, is farther down his tech tree, like, you don't have an advantage. You must take risks in order to get ahead. So, for instance, you must risk big storm drops or something like that. Ways to kill off huge numbers of SCVs. Sure, it might backfire and you lose the warp prism and be even farther behind, but there's really no such thing as farther behind. You should either think of, am I losing or am I winning? And you want to be in the winning category, so it's good to take that huge risk to sort of pop up there. Expanding to places that you're just hoping he won't scout. Yeah, that's not good in a normal game. That will not give you a good win percentage. I do not endorse just tons of hidden expos unless you're just trying to have a fun game, in which case, hide the expos. But in a real game, don't go around hiding every expo unless you're way behind. Hiding expansions is essential, actually, when you're way behind. And actually a pretty common technique that we see employed quite a bit in those high-level Korean matches that we know and love. So, doing the smart thing, pulling back to this island. I do think all the mules should be at the riskier expansion, because one thing to note, people kind of screw up this analysis. A mule gets you 270 minerals faster. You don't get 270 minerals. That didn't increase the total number of minerals in the game by 270. You mined from the mineral patch 270 faster. So this means you want to risk throwing those mules down at those expansions you might not have for a very long time, so you can get as much money as you can out of there. And then when you're back to your one island expansion, that it is basically your main now, you know, you can go back to muling that comfortably. So here he is, muling away and queuing up. And of course, you know my policy on queuing. No, don't queue. It's very bad. Building depots here, building some marines. I think this is smart. Not too many marines, but just a handful to make sure nothing stupid happens. You know, such a little bit of support for these Vikings, especially because his production, he can't even saturate his production right now. He only has a few structures that he's able to build stuff with. And now, ooh, getting Banshees. Great thing to do. Anytime you've had crazy base trading, tech switching going on, like both of you lost a ton of major structures, getting something that requires detection is super good. Happened all the time in StarCraft 1. Players trade bases. The guy who wins was the guy who got a Wraith with Cloak or a Dark Templar or a Lurker in there. Because as we're seeing, the Cybernetics core is only partway done. Now Protoss is starting to play smart, right? We have these units that are hanging out here by the Nexus. They really should be in the mineral patch as opposed to just sort of up here. We have the other half of the units also by this expansion. Alright, cool. And Protoss should be gearing up to take this expo. So kind of a nutty game, but don't forget your basic unit compositions. You know, if you like Sentries, Stalkers, and Colossi, make sure you're still going for Sentries, Stalkers, and Colossi. And also, by the same logic, when you are ahead in a game of, you know, really any RTS, scout for hidden expos. Try not to have some goofy harass kill off all your workers. And you will have so much more success. So, alright. Once upon a time, there was a game where a Terran player had 38 food and was hiding on an island with 19 SCVs. And the Protoss player was comfortably at 120 food with 7 Colossi. And we know that our story ended in 20 minutes? Are you serious? I had no idea that such stories were ever told. But yep, we're going to see these Banshees pop out. Now here, I think we're going to start seeing the fatal flaws of this Protoss unit composition. Oh, by the way, hiding more expos, totally kick ass. I think we're going to see the fundamental flaw of Protoss' unit composition here because it's all ground. It's Zealots, Immortals, Colossi, and yes, sentries can shoot up, but they're more of those reinforcements for your ground units. They really help the Colossi a bunch. Now that we're getting any sort of air, now that we're actually getting Banshees, it's a big blunder for Protoss to have too many not anti-air units in there. And look, he's getting the Observers, good. He is expanding to the gold, even better. So we're going to come back to these Banshees here. Uh-oh, look at them swirling around. Man, that bugs me. I hold down the middle mouse button to do the smooth scrolling, and occasionally I like zoom up like this. I mean, look at this. I'm in the unit counting station. There's only 9 sentries. And look, there's the first 3 stalkers. Protoss is like, wait a minute. And you can micro Banshees really well. You can do this shoot and scoot. I don't have no better way to say it, because obviously what I just said rhymed, and rhyming's cool. But yeah, look, shoot and scoot, shoot and scoot. This is so good. And even units with range 5, because we know Banshees have a range 6, even units with range 5 you can just sort of scoot away from, and never get hit by them. So I'm delighted by that. That I think is really cool. But we're going to see him just dart up here. We're going to see him probably kill off some Colossi soon. Look at how red these are. You don't always have to have the health bars on like this by any means. It's useful for this sort of sniping. But if you don't have the health bars like me, make sure you tap Alt a lot. Hold this Alt key. Love this Alt key. Be like a Warcraft 3 player. Be at 1 with your thumb on that Alt key, right? And look, Protoss, once again, getting completely and utterly distracted by like a Banshee, and now he's going to lose this Nexus. I mean, a lot of disorganization. I mean, we just have all these ground units just hanging out here because they can't do anything. He needs to have had more Stalkers beforehand, and we see a Warp Prism get up to try to do some more damage to the island. But I am more in favor of expanding and just scouting the rest of the map than I am of trying to Warp Prism in and to kill his one base. Because for God's sake, he's you're doubling his food. You don't need to like go over there and try to kill him immediately with these small forces that you'll get by 1 Warp Prism. And somehow these Banshees are still doing damage. That's pretty funny. And Terran goes, wait a minute. He has a bunch of Colossi here. Yeah, going down. Looks like he's targeting the Immortal first. Looks like he's just using attack move. Taking out some Zealots. Yeah, there's a Colossus gonna go down. Colossus should have gone down. Cool game, regardless. Oh, yeah, sneaking the expansions. Yeah, go Loner. Picking stuff off. Is he still making Banshees? Oh, he's making Banshees and Vikings. Good man. Wouldn't even mind a command center going down here. Look, he has cleared everything up, no problem. Oh, Photon Cannon's being warped in right now. And you know what is another upgrade you should be getting as Protoss? Blink. Blink is super important at this stage. Is Protoss doing that? He has some sentries firing, but it's not good enough. It goes down. Blink would be so useful for popping right underneath those Banshees and just shooting right up their buttholes. Seriously, Blink is one of the strongest upgrades in the game to combat air unit of any kind, especially Vikings and Banshees. And here comes an Observer to obviously detect and all that good stuff. I noticed some of the biggest organization happens when there's like cloaked units and harassment going. I think that before a game, you should just say to yourself, this is the harassment I need to worry about. Actually, I should say if you get in a crazy game like this, you should just be very calm and say, I need to always have some units here. What units am I going to have here? And I need to have some other units here. What units am I going to have here? And okay, I have these Colossi that also need to be defended. I'm just going to keep them with my other units here. Kind of like when you were first playing StarCraft or, StarCraft 2, if any of you are like, RTS newcomers. There was a point where you realized that you had to use the keyboard. And, even though it was a lot easier to like click on the SCV portrait because that's what you were used to, you forced yourself to hit that S button, and it just took a little bit more time. And as you continue to force yourself to, okay, instead of hotkeying everything as 1 and 2, I'm actually going to try to use that 5, 6, and 7 hotkey, or maybe that 0 hotkey that's so far away. And even though it felt uncomfortable, you still did it. And it took time in the game, but it made you a better player. Do that when you're in these crazy harassment situations. Take a minute and say, okay, I'm getting harassed, I'm getting flustered. I'm just going to reorganize myself a little bit. You'll probably lose 3 or 4 more probes than you wanted to, but you greatly minimize the risk of losing this game, and you almost eliminate the risk of losing to this in future games. So just take that minute just to sort of unwind which is super important in intense situations like this in ladder games or even friendly games, and especially in tournaments. So here we have some Marines just doing some stim antics. Whoo! Darting back out. Some more harassment going on. And, you know, I can actually tell that the Protoss is feeling flustered at this point just because of the way these units are moving around. The fact that he has not scouted up here at all. He has not scouted his own natural, which is actually pretty mineral rich. Things are still dying here. These Colossi are just in random locations. They're not hanging over all these units. And it's actually even... It's good to have the Colossi floating over these units for two reasons. One, it helps the Colossi not die. And two, it covers up these units on the ground and makes them harder to target fire. Great, great use. And look at this building placement. It's like a sloppy jigsaw puzzle of pylons here, man. Like, none of them are lining up. Getting more pylons. Getting some observers. I like this. I like the fact that these Colossi are hanging out here. He's gotten that Nexus back up. Might look like an excessive cannons. Very acceptable amount of cannons there. I dig it. I'm into it. And here we have some more dropships coming up. And, you know, I think this is a good choice for Terran to make these extra Marines because, again, he's behind. He's spending almost all of his gas on these Vikings and Banshees. So, you know, may as well just throw down some extra Marines just to try to do something. I mean, a lot of times you'll end up in a situation where it's actually detrimental to spend your money. Because you want to, like, free up food for gas units, or this is the composition you want to be going for. But, you know, when you're in this sort of corner, do that. So, and look at that great scanning going up, and see you later, observers. Is there another one there? Yes, there is. Scan. 1, 2, 1, 2, 2. Uh-oh, losing things. Whipping around, taking out the Colossi. Now, this is actually really useful to see here that during this whole battle, these dropships were kind of hanging out. Like, if we just rewind a pinch. So, we're just going to be aware of the minimap. So, here's the dropships hanging out here. And then, so you look at the minimap. Here's the battle going on, just to show you I'm not lying. There it is. And just watch these dropships. Dum-da-dum. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Just hanging out, looking at the dropships. No, the stream didn't crash. I'm actually just hanging out here, looking at dropships that aren't moving in. We still have no movement from the dropships. Oh yeah, I have dropships. You know, this is, I think, one of the most important lessons that you know, you should just plan, okay, I am doing a drop. And even though this was like the main focus, you need to tell yourself that the other thing needs to be what you're repeating to yourself in your head over and over and over again. So for instance, I have a big battle going on, and I also know I should go back to my base and macro really well and all that sort of stuff. So what most players tend to do is they'll go into the battle and they'll try to remember to macro, but, you know, most of the time they just focus on the battle and forget. What good players do is they go into a battle thinking to themselves, I got a macro. Literally, they see a confrontation, and the first thing that runs through their head is, Jesus, I have to go back and macro at some point in this battle. And as they're managing the battle, they're always thinking, when am I allowed to go back to my base to macro? The macro becomes the focus of this huge event that they're looking at. And the macro is actually happening somewhere else, but it's still the focus. They want to go back and take care of that. So here, we have this huge battle with Vikings and Banshees. That's right, Vikings and Banshees. And the Terran player had this dropship ready to go at the back, and he shouldn't have been thinking, okay, I want to do a drop here. Oh my god, maybe I have a big confrontation. All right, cool, confrontation. Focus on that, focus on that. He should have been, okay, there's a confrontation. Jesus, that drop is going to be really good now, and just jumped right into that. So it's always good to know that if you have any sort of secondary plan, that is always the primary thing. No, I would not like to accept that. Whoa. So, anyways. Okay. 2-1-2, 1-1, 1-2. Usual battling action going on. And, you know, this didn't do an extraordinary amount. As we can see, Colossi are still really good. But it, you know, got a lot of probes. Yeah, you know, it distracted Protoss yet more. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. And look at this. Protoss at 84, Terran at 81. Surely not. Surely Terran is not equalizing. Yes, he is, through great play. And, you know, I have been... It seems like I've been bashing on Protoss a lot. Protoss is not playing horrifically by any means. Oh, by the way, look. More harassment stuff? Yes, sir. Oh, that's so good. Oh, taken out of Stargate. You know, Protoss has made, I think, 2 or 3 key blunders. One of them is that he wasn't scouting these expansions. The second one is that he wasn't keeping these Colossi tight over with his units, and they ended up falling fairly easily. And 3, he should have been focusing entirely on defending his expansions, just having his units placed generally better. So here we have the Banshees coming in, doing more harassment. Look at this. This Terran is just picking the Protoss apart. And notice that the units always seem to be in the wrong place. And look, running up here without an observer. Classic panic disorganization. And look, Vikings darting up, taking out the observer. Oh, look, a free Colossi. Oh, thank you very much. Putting that on the Protoss' tab, no problem. Taking out a whole bunch more stuff. At this point, I would probably say that still taking out the probes is better than the units. And I actually do think the decision is fairly close. Because we now know that we're starting to pick off the Colossi. There's a weaker ground presence by Protoss. So can I just kill off these Stalkers and then land my Vikings, land my dropships that are still hanging out down here, and win? I don't know. I don't know. There's actually no definitive answer for that. That's actually one of those super hard things that you have to be very comfortable analyzing in the moment. But I just want to point out that the decision is close. And I like the fact that that the Terran did a lot of probe killing, a lot of econ damaging, but he especially, is also trying to take out some of these Colossi. Terran trying to expand here, and one thing to note, Terran floated this command center directly south. From here, he just floated it straight south right to there. This is why I was blown away. I was blown away that the Protoss wasn't scouting this once. Even though this is Protoss' old natural. But natural doesn't mean anything when that's your new main. Right? It's very, very important to scout, especially when you're in an even more intense situation. And just like the perfect composition by Terran. A really mobile air army with cloak when Terran's trying to expand all over the place and only has an island to defend? Oh yeah, that's the right composition. But still, queuing's bad. Just for God's sake, get a 3rd starport. But we can obviously understand where Terran's coming from. Terran's focusing all on harassment. He's trying to control these things perfectly. He doesn't have time to go back and carefully rearrange the macro on his buildings, which actually is a big time consumer. I just want to bring it up to note that there are always ways to improve your play. Even these players who I think very clearly are really good. Both players have done a very good job of just constantly making a lot of stuff. I just think that this is awesome by Terran. Look at this, taking out the observers, taking out this assimilator, picking off everything. Oh, here's some stalkers caught in the back. And look, taking it as an opportunity to snipe off the back stalker. And this is one of those things that happened in StarCraft 1 a lot. Anytime there was a small hole through buildings, you tried to funnel stuff in there. So that way you could pick it off as it came out the other side right around here. And, free buildings are free buildings. Yeah, let's bring the Vikings into the fight. Yes. Look at them, they're all headbanging together. That's glorious. Oh, I didn't even know there was a nuke. He has a Ghost Academy? I didn't see that. Where's the Ghost Academy? Yes, sir. You the best, sir. Oh, nuking. Oh, my God. Oh, and here come the probes. Oh. And what does Protoss see? A little tiny dot. Oh, my God. It's going to go off. Oh, my God. Oh. I have 12 years of playing StarCraft competitively, and with my experience, I can definitively say that was sweet, I think is the word that we say for that. He killed, like, a ton of probes, and that is bejugular, I dare say. Again, the nuke is your focus, You start the nuke, and I think 99% of Terran players, when they begin to nuke, they actually take both hands off the keyboard, and they just start doing the double Tiger Woods fist pump. They're like, come on, get him. And that's great. But once again, nukes are cool, but, look elsewhere, look at the important stuff. Like, the nuke went off, and none of these Vikings had lifted up. They were completely underprepared for when these Phoenixes came up. See, now I'm starting to see a good transition by Protoss that should have happened way earlier. Phoenixes. Again, this is going to help me manage the air. That is really the only way that you can come back in here. This is going to help so much with these Banshees. It's going to help so much with these Vikings. I think it was definitely long. Excuse me. Sorry, the split pea soup is not settling so well. I think that these Phoenixes were long overdue. Still, a lot better organization by Protoss, right? He's keeping his stuff together. He's keeping an observer with his forces. We can see in that one hotkey he has, you know, an observer there. Still has it's amazing this Immortal's still alive. Look at that, 22 kill Immortal. He's a true hero of this game. And there's the one Ghost with 26 kills. Whoopsie daisies. Uh-oh. Oh, man. And see, this is why I think the Phoenix stuff was long overdue. Again, the Phoenix falls right in line with that fundamental theorem of just being ahead. Make sure you don't die to stupid sorts of harassments. Yeah, Phoenixes might not perfectly incorporate into whatever army transition you had. I giggle every time something gets lifted like that. You know, the Phoenixes might not be perfectly smooth in your Colossus army transition or whatever, but still, you know, make sure you don't die to a bunch of crazy drops when your Terran opponent had one freaking base. So now Terran's in the struggle bear mode again. If we go to the unit counting station, he doesn't have much. Protoss is actually looking a little bit more comfortable in my eyes at this point. Still good crisis management. Uh-oh, cloak and run. And look at this, taking out more units. I think this is I think this is strong by Terran. I think he stayed in here a little bit too long, but I think it's super important to see this stuff and go, uh-oh, there's a threat, but still be focused enough to try to take out one of these stalkers before you dash out. Most players just see units and they go, oh, Jesus, get me out of here. And that's less than ideal. God, that's cool. And, oh yeah, let me just, yeah, you want to build a turret? I don't think so. Lifting them up one at a time. I'm just going to sit here and watch it because that's just unbelievably rewarding. Yep, there you go. Protoss still trying. Again, maintain focus. Build a pylon back here. You have Banshees continuing to harass. God, Terran's so good at this. This is so awesome. Keeping these things a little bit closer together. Obviously, we're probably going to be investing in some cannons right here. And a lot of times, what's a great idea is to just fall back to your original expo. Just fall back here, sacrifice this, just completely give up on this. Come back, stabilize with your units, and then make a very planned, straightforward, confident push to secure this expo. So often you'll see players lose because they're trying to take 10 expos and they're just dashing around like a chicken with a head cut off for like 20 minutes. And that's no good. And look, we have returned to the use of the D key. Yes, I can indeed make Marauders. Alright, nice. And one planetary fortress. Whole bunch of other stuff here. Looks fantastic. Yeah, and now Protoss must be concerned with holding these expansions. So completely... Terran pulled the topsy-turvy on the Protoss, I'm not going to lie. Protoss was ahead by 80 food, and now we have Terran at 100. And Protoss at 61. Terran is ahead. And uh-oh, looks like might get lost. Oh, no, looks like the EMP went off. I don't know if EMP actually takes out your own energy. That's actually something I'd want to look into. That's a good old research topic. But yeah, I think in this case, the Terran has pulled a beautiful comeback. I think this is one of the best illustrations of just picking someone apart with harassment and exploiting disorganization. And bad decision making. This is such an incredible job by Terran. I loved this. This was amazing. God, I have 2,300 viewers. You guys are so cool to have tuned in. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I also know that most of the Europeans tune in on Wednesdays because it's a little bit later. And here comes Terran marching with his very standard solid unit mix. Does he have the combat shield upgrade? No, that's a mistake. Either way, he nukes in the middle of a battle, slowing it down. Thank you. Yes, indeed. Even on the lowest graphics settings, that looks beautiful. By the way, for any of you who are curious, I keep my graphics settings at low because it's much easier to parse at the competitive level, just what's going on. Too much glitter when you have the higher graphics settings. In fact, pretty much every competitive player I know has their graphics settings set to low. And there's the good game. Look at XiaoT with the great manners right after that insane game where he basically had it won and sort of botched it because the Protoss had Terran had some really nice decision making. He's still manner enough to be like, hey, good game, man, because once again, everyone in Europe and in Asia is friendly. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute the chat. We have some questions. Once again, if any of you have any interest in donating in PayPal, I'm going to give you my PayPal account information, partly because it's to help me get new equipment, if you have any interest in that, and also because I'm shameless. So my PayPal is SPLOTT at hmc.edu, splot at hmc.edu, and you totally don't have to. I'm only saying it because I've literally gotten a ridiculous amount of requests in the last 2 months, and I never realized that the internet was so nice. So big hearts to everyone out there. So let's go ahead and take let's go ahead and mute the chat and take some friendly questions from everything going on. Oh, I want to say now that we have 2,300 viewers, on Tuesday next week is Day 9 Daily number 100. I have an HD camera coming in, and I am only going to tell the hilarious, triumphant, and terrible stories of my career playing StarCraft, just everything about my life playing StarCraft. So I definitely want people to tune into Day 9 Daily number 100. And if you're watching this on demand, hopefully you can just watch that on demand right now, which you should do. It's going to be just tons of stories and good times, so I'm going to also make a post about it on teamliquid.net. So let's see. What is going on here? What are some good ones? So, BDF92 says, what do you think about the Collosus drops versus Immortal drops? Both seem bejugular. BDF, you asked 2 questions using 2 words that I made up. What BDF is saying is, what do I think about the Collosus drops as opposed to the Immortal drops? Both of them seem good. Bejugular is really what you should say. When would you want to use one over the other? And especially what BDF92 is referring to is the fact that yesterday, I believe, no, excuse me, the day before yesterday, in Day 9 Daily number 95, I reviewed a Protoss vs. Terran opening that centered around Immortal drops, treating it kind of like a Reaver drop in Protoss vs. Terran in StarCraft 1, or Brood War. But we also saw the little one against Demuslim use a Colossus drop, and he also used it against White Ra, and that's pretty cool. What I would say is that the Colossus drop, to me feels a little bit more, has a little bit more vulnerability early on because it's so expensive that there's a big window where you're a little bit, am I actually going to stay alive? So there are certain maps where I'd actually prefer it. So for instance, Scrap Station, I like the idea of using the Colossus drop. Also, the Immortals, the distinct advantages that those have is that by getting the early Immortals, first of all, it's a little bit safer, but also you have the opportunity to take out the destructible rocks at a key location, namely the gold mineral patches. So I really like Colossus drops against Protoss, because you can one-shot the probes, and that's obviously good. And also the Protoss anti-air seems a little bit lacking, so that's strong. Especially, I like the Colossus drop against someone who's going mass Marauder, because you can unload, shoot, and load back up, and the concussive shells from the Marauder's fire, and then they explode after the after the Colossus has been lifted up, so it takes no damage. And theoretically, you could say, well, yeah, I can do the exact same thing with the Immortals. But the Colossus drop is really the worker killer, and the Immortal drop is really the building killer, I think is the most succinct way to sum that up. So let's see here. People are asking good questions just about general stuff. But I want to see if there are any questions about this specific game. Let's see. Okay, this is actually a good question by God's Basement. So, here's God's Basement question. Banshees seem to own when Terran doesn't have to worry about defending against Zealots and Immortals and all that jazz. Why doesn't Terran lift off immediately to that island and Banshee the entire map hard? So, in my early StarCraft 2 days, aka like 2 months ago, I was judgmental against the idea of quick expands to islands and all that stuff, until I found out that Terran can actually take their starting workers, lift their command center, float to a gold mineral patch, and start mining, and that's actually a legitimate opening. That sounds bonkers, but try it. Lift your starting command center, float it, and go somewhere else. And also what God's Basement is referring to is that in this game, while Terran was trying to get back on his feet, get more workers up, he was able to have free reign, free movement around with these Banshees. So I actually think that is an excellent build, and it's best suited to Scrap Station. And don't go so extreme as to just lift and then go straight to the island immediately, but I think a fast expand geared towards taking the island early on is perfect on Scrap Station, because it's a long attack distance. Even though you have a big ramp, you still have a ramp, so you can defend using your high ground advantage. Even though it's not as big in StarCraft 2, you still have the high ground advantage. and that distance advantage. And then you can use the fact that your expo on the island is so close to the opponent that you can be aggressive and pop right back to your main or your island to defend ultra easily. So that is a fantastic opening. This an air-oriented opening that focuses on taking your island expansion early. And you can do all sorts of great harassment, but once again, you have to transition to a ground army at some point. So probably opening up with 2 starports, sticking to that, doing a lot of damage with it, transitioning into a Marine Marauder force, and then pushing out, because that Marine Marauder force is what's going to let you take the expansions, and really is going to be the cleanup crew to you know, finish off the battered Protoss player. So let's go ahead and just take 1 or 2 more questions. Oh god, people are asking all these questions about the patch and all that good stuff. So you know what? I'm actually going to unmute, and if any people have any specific questions about this game, then I'm delighted to answer those. Once again, I want to save all the patch discussion for the TeamLiquid.net beta podcast number 5 coming out. Oh yeah, David Kim, who may or may not be David Kim, says, Day 9, you got a whopping 2,300 views. Can we get another Overlord impersonation, please? Of course! Bah! Bah! God, I love that Overlord. It's so good. I do a pretty good Queen. I love the noises. So let's just go ahead and check on out. Oh yeah, and also Lulgery mentions that you can use Stalkers to blink to the island and blink to the enemy base from or on Scrap Station. You go from main to island to main and all around and back again. And that is a great thing, definitely. So I just to talk a little bit about blink there as well. I do think that instead of getting Phoenixes, Protoss could have gotten Stalkers as well with blink to deal with those air threats. That I think would have given them the mobility and the sniping benefit that he would have wanted. So that I think it's good to sort of weigh those things against one another. And you know what? We have been going for 56 minutes, and it is currently 10:02 p.m. So I will sign off for the evening. So thank you so much for tuning in. Tomorrow's On Demand will be going up right now, and then today will be up in 24 hours. So that's not useful for anyone right now, because anyone who just saw this saw it live, and anyone who's watching this on demand just finished watching it on demand. So hey, take it easy everyone, and play StarCraft and be merry.